I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm David Albritton, your committee chair representing the city of Clearwater, and I'd like to go around the room and have everybody introduce themselves.
Tom Reed, Commissioner, City of South Pasadena.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Josh Schulman, St. Petersburg.
Deborah Nick Sanders, City of St. Petersburg.
Patty Reed, City of Pinellas Park.
Very good. All right, is there any public comment? No?
I don't have anything either.
Okay, thank you. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the March 20 meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair, I approve the minutes, especially the part naming you as chair.
Second.
Okay. Second?
Second. Well, I think,
Yeah, Tom's name.
Tom? were you-
I second.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, first up today, we have Devin Deal, Senior Planner, to update the committee about the ridership trends and how Flamingo Fair program is going.
Good morning, Planning Committee. My name is Devin Deal. I'm the Senior Planner here at PSTA. And for those of you that have been sitting on the Finance Committee, this is a monthly presentation that we've been taking to Finance starting at the beginning of this year. Essentially, we just go over kind of our system ridership trends, and then we dive deeper into a different topic every month. Last month, we talked about the express routes based on some conversation at the board meeting, and this month, we're diving a little into our Flamingo Fares program. So first of all, this is our system fixed route ridership by month. You can see in green at the bottom fiscal year 22, fiscal year 23 in blue, and then our current year, fiscal year 24 in red. You do see ridership started to drop in fiscal year 24 in December. That is related to the service cuts we had at the board. But you can see in February, with our additional spring break service, we see ridership really starting to pick back up, and we nearly crossed 800,000 rides in February. So moving into Flamingo Fares, most of you know that is a regional partnership that we have with HART. And HART has about 50% higher population than us, but we have significantly more riders on Flamingo Fares. And I think this is a testament to PSTA's readiness to adapt to new technology and really just try to provide our riders with the easiest ways to pay and ride the buses they can, and also a testament to our great marketing team efforts to get the word out about Flamingo Fares. You can see a really, really large jump in January where we jumped by about 100,000 Flamingo rides. That's because we did away with mag stripes at the fare box where you could go on the bus and put in $5 in cash and get issued a day pass and things like that. We did away with those, and those were replaced by our Flamingo Fares day passes that you can get at terminals and our retail partners. So speaking of our Flamingo trips, you can see in pink right here the Flamingo rides, and then in green is our fare box trips. Our Flamingo trips cover any trip you use with a Flamingo card, any trip on the app, any of our TD riders, our senior riders with their discount fares, any of the contactless payment where you tap with your credit card or your Apple Watch. That's all captured in Flamingo Fares in pink. In green, you see our fare box trips. Those are paying cash at the fare box as well as our UPass riders. So again, you see fare box ridership started to trend down as we were marketing the elimination of Go cards at the fare box. And in September, we had about 33% of our rides happening on Flamingo. And now through February, we have 53% of our rides were on Flamingo services. So with the Flamingo services, the most common way that people ride is just tapping their card. That is, again, our TD riders, our seniors with their discount fares, our veterans, and everything like that. These 75% of our rides in February, are roughly 290,000 rides, those were card taps. In blue, you see the app payments. Those are just, you can load cash into the app and pay. You can also load your Flamingo card into the app and use that through the app, and those show up in the 13%. That was about 50,000 rides in February. And then for our contactless payments, that's about 12% of our rides. That's your credit card, your debit card, your Apple Watch, your Apple Wallet, those payment methods. That was 12% or roughly 45,000 rides in February. And I do want to highlight the growth of our contactless payments because we started this program in December, and we actually went live in December, but we didn't advertise it because we were testing it, and we had almost 200 taps in December. So without even advertising, we had customers, just intuitively just trying to tap their card and ride. And then we started marketing it and launching it in January, and you can see really, really strong continuous growth over the last year or so, and we exceeded 45,000 rides in February. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. And additionally, if there's anything you would like me to dive into for future topics, just let me know, and I'd be happy to.
Yes.
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you, Devin, for the information. With the credit or debit cards that now, I think I forgot, do the seniors get the discount with that now?
Not yet. I believe our mobility team is working on a program to register your card with us so you can get that senior discount, but if you just use your credit card or debit card, currently you do not get that discount.
Okay, so when that does get implemented, how would a senior go about, being qualified for the program?
So phase one, which should go live any day now. Is it live?
We are, Amanda Baird, Director of Communications and Marketing. We are tentatively penciled in for this program to go live May 1st. May 1st.
Okay,
That requires you to go to one of the manned transit centers in the county and show them your credit card and your ID that shows you're a senior, and then they will register your credit card.
yeah, that's a little cumbersome, but.
It's a little cumbersome. Phase two, which is my dream, is that you'll just be able to do this on your own.
Yeah.
On your phone, somehow you can prove that you're a senior or a veteran, and then the Flamingo app, you'll be able to type in your credit card, and then it'll say, okay, Brad Miller, you qualified.
Yeah, I did it in Seattle a few years back, when I turned 65, and you did have to show up at King Street and with your ID and everything, so.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
get
the
it.
basic technology is you have to show your driver's license
Right.
to a human
Right,
to read it.
right.
But there are new technologies that are creating virtual valid IDs for people that are on your phone, that are electronic, that,
Right.
Okay.
that are coming about.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we're making progress in this. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Commissioner Cox, your point actually made me, one thing that I wanted to mention also with contactless payments, that is part of our fare capping program. So if you use your credit card 3 times when you
Okay.
tap, you're gonna fare cap on the third payment at $5 for the
Got
day
it.
as well.
Sure. Thanks.
Yes.
So, just looking at the slides on the ridership trend, we were at about 800,000 rides. On the fare payment slides, we were at 650. How are the other 150,000 rides being paid for?
We have, the city of St. Petersburg pays for the portion of the CAT, that remains free. Those rides aren't necessarily captured. I know there is some difference between APC, GFI, and Flamingo because the numbers aren't always going to be exact. As part of a reconciliation process, we get them really close, but we do still have free riders in general that wouldn't necessarily be captured with that.
Okay,
There's more
so-
than that too, but.
So the 800,000 on the ridership by fixed route is capturing the counters, the person counters as they go on and off the bus.
Yes.
The Flamingo, the other slide is counting how we're receiving, or how we're acknowledging each one of those rides.
Correct. And also some of our purchase transit, like Jolly Trolley and Looper, all of their transactions don't necessarily show up in our fare box in Flamingo trips either. So those are
They don't?
separate. Not Looper, I don't believe shows up for fare box and things like that.
Well, Looper's free, but Jolly Trolley?
Oh, no, you're right, yeah. Looper doesn't show up because it's free. That's right. I misspoke on that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, because there's a,
Mhm.
150,000, rider or rides discrepancy between those two, so. And were you, for the rest of this agenda item, were you going to go through other reports, or are we moving on after this?
If you have another question or comment on another report.
Well, I just wasn't sure if we, in the finance committee, oftentimes, Brad, either you would report or talk about some of these other reports. I just wanted to make sure that, I wasn't sure if we were, I don't necessarily have a specific question, but I wasn't sure if we were covering those as part of this item.
We were not. We anticipated that the finance committee agenda was pretty full, and we were not sure if it would have time for Devin. That's why we kind of moved into this. Plus,
So I will say, first off, I think that Devin being here is way more appropriate to be at the planning committee than the finance committee, right? So, serving on both, right? So it doesn't matter to me. But I think this information is much more helpful from a planning perspective and an understanding of how we're operating versus the finance committee, which is basically to review contracts and how we're spending money. It can be done at both, but I guess what I'm saying is I'm pleased that this is here, and that this committee should be hearing these sorts of things. I did want to note on the board report, on which one is this? The February operating statistics, the insane jump in UPass. So that's really where I was headed if we were gonna be talking about that, because, we went from a year ago at like 27,000 to, almost 80,000.
I
Which is
can briefly
crazy.
speak to that as well.
Wonderful.
Late last year rather, we worked with operations to go through a real process to refine how we count our UPass riders. They're counted with the fare box and the operators kind of press a button, but it was really varied how those were categorized by bus. And our operations team had a really, really strong effort to consolidate and get the keys consistent across every bus. So we feel like the ridership we get now really, really strongly captures our UPass riders, where some might have been slipping through the cracks previously.
Well, and I think a future Flamingo adaptation will be adding these sorts of things to Flamingo, because, right, our UPass riders are the ones less likely to have anything other than their phone.
Right.
And so putting these things on their phone allows them to be operating and existing in the world in which the way they already want to. But it was just amazing to see that tremendous growth. I'm gonna assume it wasn't there and we're really growing, not that we're just doing a better job counting, but I understand the point.
No, I think we are,
Maybe a little bit of
well,
both.
I mean, the year-over-year growth is Pinellas County School students. I think vast majority, that's the growth.
Additional HCA is also a new UPass
Oh, yeah.
agreement.
And the nurses, yeah, at HCA hospitals.
Okay, so are we combining those two versus having right, so we had the C-Pass and the UPass. Are we now
they're
counting
all
those as
counted
one
as
thing?
UPass. They're all UPass.
It's all UPass now. We've kind of refined the contract process to really simplify for these businesses and potential partners.
Retiring the CPAS.
Retiring the CPass brand, kind of having everybody fall under UPass
Universal pass.
to be universal pass rather than
University.
university.
Okay.
So I see the value in having that sort of consistency. On the other hand, it's harder to then know where that's coming from, right? So, and if you don't know exactly where it's coming from, how do you know if you're doing a good job or need to improve in certain areas to beef it up?
And in the counting process, like to Evan's point, we have registered each button. The drivers have buttons that they can press for hospital, Pinellas County student,
Mhm.
college
Okay.
student. So we can potentially pull that report for a future meeting and get that more detailed. breakdown.
So within UPass, they're still keeping track. It's not just one button that says UPass.
Correct.
Okay. I also think that's where when we look at innovations into Flamingo, that, right, as people start to build in their own persona and what they're using, it'll automatically do that, which makes it easier for the drivers.
And we do have one or two very small UPass agreements, tiny nonprofits that they're on a very limited UPass who are in the Flamingo program, so rather than because they don't have an ID as part of their program participation, the Ready for Life,
Mhm.
which is a foster kid organization, is the one that comes to mind, that we've actually issued them a limited number of Flamingo cards, rather because they don't have, their program participants don't have any kind of ID, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
So we had brought this up before, especially when we were trying to, our last workshop in that, and I had asked, so all the people or the programs like the Ready for Life or the nursing and so forth, do we recognize that anywhere and promote it so that other businesses and that will see that they're doing it and that they can do that? And do we put that somewhere, and is that in an email to us saying, hey, we just secured HCA or Ready for Life, and this is what they're doing, and this is what they're offering, and we're pretty amazing in helping them do this? And do we show that we're able to, what we're giving and doing for them, so that it makes us look amazing, but it's also a really good thing for the community? And do we target other programs
Yes,
that do
we,
that?
I'm actually in the process of developing some case studies for our business partnership manager to use in her sales conversations with other leads. And each individual partner has different comfort levels of, hey, we really wanna like push this out as an amazing employee benefit, and some of them are like, oh, we'd rather keep this more on the down low, more an employee internal facing message. So we do what we can with what we have.
Can we, me as a board member, I would like to know though, the ones when we do things like that, maybe through emails or that, just as a, know that what we're doing
Yeah,
on that side.
Yeah.
I thought we did send that out as an email with HCA, just the
Yeah, the
latest
HCA
one,
one,
but
yeah.
the,
On just some of them moving forward. 'Cause it's good
I agree with
information
you.
to have,
We
especially.
now have all of the companies' logos on our website, under the UPass program, so that, yes, the idea would be that a rider, or say, hey, why is my company giving me a free ride? Maybe,
Yeah.
get some business,
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
partnerships.
Make it a benefit for.
Yeah, or
other
why
people.
is this hospital, why,
Yeah.
and I say yes, means it's not, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we also subtly include it in all of our fair education messaging, like, hey, your company might be offering free rides. Click here to learn more. If your company's not on this list, go talk to your HR team.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
So,
Great, good questions so far. Any other questions? Thank you, Devin.
Thank you.
Debbie Liz, CFO, and Kevin Lai,
Thank you.
budget analysts, are here to present the fiscal year 2025 budget assumptions.
Thank you so much, Chair. Pass you the clicker. Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. Debbie Leas, CFO here at PSTA, and joining me today is Kevin Lai. He's our budget analyst and has been helping me through the budget process, which we've been working on for a bit now. I'm very pleased to also announce that starting on Monday, I have a new manager for financial planning and analysis that'll be working on the budget. Her name is Tricia Lewis, and she's coming to us from the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. So I'm very excited to start handing over some of that back to another individual. So this morning, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin to lead us off.
Sure. Good morning, Planning Committee. Kevin Lai, Budget Analyst with FP&A. So our budget process is really one that spans through a number of months. And we've been working with various staff in PSTA since February to get us on track to present to you our first draft of the budget in June. However, today, we're here to discuss with you our key assumptions. So our ultimate goal is to present to you a balanced budget. We're appreciative of the board's contributions through our various workshops this year. And on that note, I'll hand it back to Debbie.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And with the workshops, what we aim to do is make sure that the budget is a reflection of our vision, our mission, and the different strategic areas that you all want us to concentrate on. What we do here at PSTA is multi-year budgeting and forecasting. So what that allows us to do, as you can see from the list up there, is a multitude of things, but what I find the most important item on here is understanding the impact of today's decisions on the future, so that we don't make some decision that's going to have a negative impact down the road, and we have to come back and revisit something. What we want to do is be able to be nimble and to be also very fiscally sustainable as we go through the budget process. I'm going to start out by talking about revenues a little bit. We have three main revenue, our top revenue categories are listed on here. And I'm going to start by talking about the ad valorem taxes or property taxes. We are currently at our max millage rate of 0.7500. And this year, the property appraiser came back with an early assumption of an increase of 5.5%. This is significantly less than where we were last year at almost 12%. And I had Kevin do a lot of research on this. And when we look back over a period of years, the property appraiser's office, which really comes out of Tallahassee, I think at this early point, comes back at a very conservative percentage. Matter of fact, the delta on the average for the last number of years is about 4.1%, meaning that on the average, if the property appraiser is saying 5.5%, it's really going to come in at 9.1%. The lowest delta that we had was in the 2% range. Now, why is this important? We only have one service to work with. So it's not like we're a county or a city that can be shaving off here or there. We've got one service, which is providing public transit to our community. So my hope is the property appraiser is way too conservative again this year. On our passenger fares, you just heard a great presentation by Devin Deal on our Flamingos fares and our ridership, which he's been talking about at several meetings. In addition, we're going to be taking a lot from what you brought to us in the first workshop and what I know we'll be hearing from you in the second workshop. You all brought to us different ideas, especially on sponsorship, working off special events, being out in the community, which we do a lot right now, but maybe doing community outreach in a different way. I think maybe Commissioner Schulman had recommended going to different organizations or different locations to talk about PSTA and how we can improve our ridership and hence our fares. We also get operating assistance. We get operating assistance from Federal Transit Administration, from FTA, and also from the state. Every transit agency in the country gets what they call formula funding because it's based on a formula. And we use that here at PSTA primarily for capital and just a small piece for operations, and we've kept that flat for at least I'd say a dozen years now. And the reason we do that is when you get money in, you want to invest it in something that's going to have a longer useful life. And we don't want to become so dependent on it that if something should happen, which it has on occasion throughout the years, that we aren't dependent on it to pay our operators. One of the other things that we have, state operating assistance, we get a lot of money from the state. We get block grant money. Again, it's a formula-driven pot of money. We get money for our TD riders. We get it from a variety of sources for funding our routes. And we also, coming up new this year, is we are, for sure, getting money for ferry service. And we're also getting money for 34LX. So that'll be new into our budget this coming year. From an expenditure side, the largest portion of our expenditures are within our salaries and our fringe benefit rates. When you take a look at the percentage that we have up there of 59.18%, that is extremely low compared to other transit agencies. We're very effective and very efficient here, but always looking for ways to improve. This coming year, in the salary area, which could affect us, is our bus operators, CSRs, mechanics. That SEIU agreement will be expiring at the end of this fiscal year. So that will be a driver in our budget for fiscal '25. In addition, on health insurance, last year, for those of you who are here, we had a 0% increase without changing any benefits in our health insurance. This year, I'm expecting things to go back to more normal. In the state of Florida, we generally see health insurance increases about 7 to 9%. Generally, we come in a little bit on the lower end. We tend to have some great wellness programs here which help us out on the claims. Speaking of effective and efficient, we're going to be taking a look at ways we can take the data from the community bus plan that we're working on right now to see what we can implement within the fiscal constraints that we have in our budget. Another large area that we have in our budget is privatized transportation, about $20 million in this year's budget. That relates to things like First Transit for paratransit, the Ubers, the Lyfts, Jolly Trolley, Looper. So we have a lot of service that is privatized out that is run on our behalf. What we are going to do is continue to look for efficiencies in how we deliver this service to have cost savings, and we're also going to look at cost savings from potential contract modifications. One of the areas that Al Burns, our highly motivated procurement director, has been tasked with is taking a look at our Jolly Trolley contract. And the reason being is, from when we started that contract till now, a lot of factors have changed, and there may be opportunities for cost savings within that one. And with that, I will take any questions. Mr. Schulman?
I was gonna hold off in case anybody else had questions first.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, thank you. A few questions and several comments. And I'm looking at the summary, or the key assumptions
Yes, the
document that's in here. It's 11 pages. This is not a question, but it is something of note that just doesn't, it's not indicated as clearly, but we have property tax revenue increasing at 5.5% next year, 4.7 after that, and I get where that's coming from. I think it would be helpful to at least describe this a little bit more detailed in that it's, right, so a property owner here might think that their rate is increasing 5.5%. And it's not, right? If it's homestead, it's
Right.
capped, if it's commercial, it's capped at different things. So, putting that explanation, right, this is,
Excellent.
this 5.5 comes from the fact that we're bringing on new taxable values from new properties or people that have sold and the property value has stepped up and those sorts of things. Having attended some public workshops in St. Pete Beach, this sort of stuff isn't clear to the public. As far, they see numbers like 5.5% that get reported, and they think we're increasing their taxes 5.5%, and that's just not accurate.
That's an excellent point. I know last year we kind of put it in terms of food, probably because I'm always hungry. You know, we put it in, any savings that would be there would be equivalent for on an annual basis to buying a taco dinner, at $12 and change. So that's a great point to be able to put more context to that.
Sorry, I'm switching to.
So the 5% really is a calculation of increase, the appraiser's preliminary projected increase in,
Yeah.
I guess, taxable
Taxable
values.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, no,
in
and
Mills County.
yes,
Yeah.
and I completely understand that. I imagine most folks here who deal with millage rates also
I was just
understand
trying to
that.
make sure I understood, yeah.
But having heard from the public, that is not what they understand
Right.
when they look at those numbers, and so I just want to make sure that that's clear. I also, looking at the expenditures, I know we have the diesel fuels dropping in '26 because we're getting new electric buses, utilities are increasing. Likewise, is the diesel fuel assumption, is that based just on the reduction in number of buses, or are we also forecasting fuel prices in that?
We will be, yes, we've been looking at fuel prices, and we have a contract that is expiring with Hart. We work off their consortium. What I'm seeing right now is for the fuel that we are buying, the prices are up from where we were last year.
Yeah.
However, because Hart is going out for a new contract, and we do supply, or pay for, I won't say supply, but fuel for our vendors like First Transit and other, Jolly Trolley, which use gasoline for some of their vehicles, as we're adding into that procurement the ability to hedge on that. When I say hedge, it's locking in fuel prices. So we might be able to see some savings there.
Thank you for that. I also just wanted to point out, and I had to search for it, so we're in the section talking about revenues. We mentioned that Treasure Island and St. Pete Beach provide operating assistance. I have mixed feelings about how that's presented. One, because it doesn't show the dollar amount of what they provide, so it's hard to know what that is.
Okay.
But also, I think it's important, at least also for board members who may or may not know that those two municipalities are not member municipalities, which is why they pay for operating assistance, what their actual payment would be if they were a member organization. Right, when we talk about trying to find additional revenue sources, the rest of the system is cutting a break to municipalities that are not members by having them pay a smaller operating assistance. And I think that needs to at least be discussed at the board level as to whether that's appropriate or not. And if the board finds that it's appropriate, that's fine, but it doesn't come across as that being the case. And I think as board members change and new folks come on, it's not always known.
Okay.
And so I'd like to make that a little bit more obvious of, this is what, if they were a member and paying ad valorem taxes, this is what they would be paying, but this is what they're contracting for. Technically, I'd like to include the other municipalities that are not contracting for service, but the case is less, it's less of a strong case because they're just not contracting for any services. Like Kenneth City, which is surrounded by PSTA routes, but then pays
Right,
nothing
we'll walk
for
to
it.
them, yes.
And I've talked to Brad, he won't let us move the bus stops away from, on the other side of the road from Kenneth City.
There are not bus stops on that side of the road, which is the problem. On the Kenneth City side of the square, that is Kenneth City, there's no bus stops.
There isn't?
No,
Not like north going on 66, they're south on 49th?
nope.
Fantastic, never mind. Check that one off my list.
It's kind of ridiculous.
It is,
Buses
but,
going right by there.
but there were actually, again, at the public meeting that was had, there were people from Kenneth City complaining about the taxes they pay to PSTA, and the services and things like that, and it was all false, starting from the fact that they pay taxes to PSTA. So, and I did have some other questions that we can kind of talk offline, because some of the assumptions are like, you're straight 3%, mostly because it's like
Right.
we just don't know. We're just kind of,
Well,
it's a placeholder for just general
it
inflation.
is, and we update these annually based on where things are at with either CPI or, where we think things are going. And again, it's, as you know, with the economy, we keep hearing with all the, I'll say all the payroll, new people coming on, and, that it's gonna create probably a small recession in here somewhere and create more inflation. It's like a dog chasing its tail.
Well, and I always like to tell, as a financial planner, right, I always tell clients the one plan that will never happen is the one we just wrote down.
Exactly.
Because there's too many assumptions. And the fact that all of those would happen at the way that we're assuming is just astronomically large, that it would not happen. So, but you still need to know what road you're on, like how, this is the general path and this makes sense. But then one number did jump out at me was the privatized transportation for paratransit. We have a little over 3, a little over 3, a little over 3.01,
Yeah, and we verified.
and then a little over
it.
3. What happens there?
I verified it with the contract, and I don't know why we got so low, but I'm gonna just give kudos to Al for
Okay.
that year.
I don't mind giving kudos to Al, especially after our finance committee meeting.
But I don't know why that year was so special.
Okay, so it's not a typo.
It's
That's
not a typo.
okay. Okay, I think that's
Is that it?
I reserve for later.
Okay,
I'll
any other
reclaim my
questions?
minutes.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, thank you, Devin, and Kevin, thank you. The 34LX, I saw, could someone elaborate a little bit on that?
That is the route that the FDOT is proposing to do, and maybe Heather can explain even more, but the road is it South St. Pete? And they've been able to provide to us a grant of $1,400,000 to operate that service for approximately the next 3 years.
Uh-huh.
So, Heather, did you want to say anything specific about the route, or?
Yeah, so it's planned to go between Pinellas Park Transit Center and Eckerd College on 34th Street South. It will utilize the bus lane that DOT is including as part of the resurfacing project, which is similar to our Sunrunner, but it's on the right side of the road and allows cars to enter to make turns, and then the bus can continue going through. And we're still working on the service plan, but looking at limited stop, 20 to 30 minute service. That would hopefully be a lot faster for the riders who typically use the Route 34, which stops like constantly.
Yeah, that's for, and typically it would probably be during peak hours too, like in the morning, a few trips, and then in the later afternoon.
Well, we're still working on that service plan, but that is one of the options.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
And then we'll add at the PSA Legislative Committee 2 weeks ago, prior to our trip to Washington DC, we discussed And then we discussed with Congresswoman Castor for the federal fiscal year 25. So this is a long time out, because they just approved 24, so this will be sometime after the election probably. They'll get around to approving the 25 budget. A congressional earmark or funding, that sheet could include into the transportation budget. That would be enhanced stops on 34th Street. Real-time information at the bus stops, like the Senator has, where it says when the bus is coming, because the customers really like that aspect. And then maybe a little bit not full-blown Senator stops, but
Sure.
nicer looking.
Understood.
She seemed very positive about that.
Well, and especially with the growth in the Marina District there, meaning
Yeah.
the units being built, and affordable units too, that, I think this is a good move, truly. Thank you, that's all I have.
I got a question, real quick. Debbie, we have a contract on diesel fuel, right?
Yes,
For,
we do.
that's gonna be expiring soon.
Mhm.
And was that a 1 year, 3 year, what was that?
Great question. When I first got here, it was 1 year at a time, and I said, no way, Jose. I said, what we have to do is have a 5-year contract so I can start locking in now
Yeah.
for the following year. So it's been a 5-year contract, and that's what we're going for again.
Okay.
So we can always start as we see prices drop. Because it's the last year of the contract, we've kind of missed a nice window for next year
Mm-hmm.
because the contract's expiring, where the prices were really low.
Yeah, I know they're going up now, so,
Yeah.
well, good luck on that one.
I wish you well.
Go electric.
I have a quick question, and I'm not sure, Josh brought up something that was very, very, very important, and I think with the change in board members that we've had, and when I replay some of the conversations that we've had, for example, I didn't know Kenner City wasn't a part, and I've been on the board 3 years, right? Is there any way we can get that information as to who's contributing what? It would help put perspective in when we have residents come and complain about certain services that they don't pay into. It would help in deciding and working with route eliminations or whether we need to increase routes. Just having all of the pertinent information in regards to revenue, because that seems to be a lot of the conversation is trying to make money, although I'm into public transportation. But it still helps to know where a lot of those resources and sources are coming from. So I don't know if that's a request that we make to actually have a breakdown of that by municipality, especially being from St. Petersburg, which is less attack of going from 3 to 1. But if St. Petersburg contributes that much in those services, I think it will be relevant for our writers and our constituents to understand what that breakdown looks like, as well as other board members when we're having those conversations to understand, what municipality actually contributes into this system and how we contribute into the system. So I'm making that a request. I
Okay.
don't know if
Well, what we can, I like that idea. I'm trying to figure in my head, I can easily, which we do all the time, is we keep a list of who doesn't participate.
that'll help
Yeah.
too.
And who doesn't participate. We'll have to reach out to the property appraiser's office to see if we can get how those massive checks we get in are divided up from the locations.
Okay, that'll
See
be
if we
great
can do
information,
that.
and I would love to share that too on my
Okay.
newsletter, so, thank you so much, thank you.
Good
Mr.
questions.
Chair, can I add a point to that?
Yes.
So with that, besides just the millage rate, it would also be interesting to add other funds that are paid for by municipalities. Right, so City of St. Petersburg City Council takes money out of other revenues, not just millage, from the city coffers to then go back to PSTA for residents. So when doing that, I don't think it should just be millage. It should be total contributions. Like Tarpon Springs, I think, are they still doing the free to the hospital, right? So they should get credit for that above the millage rate that they pay. So with the goal being trying to get an accurate picture as to where things are coming from.
And thank you for that clarity.
Just a point of clarification, and we'll definitely provide that the breakdown of all the city, the funding from each municipality, and then the property tax broken out by community and what communities are not, or just in that. Just want to clarify, especially, and maybe this will be changed by the state legislature sometime, I don't know, but municipalities are not members of PSDA or paying into PSDA, the property tax that Debbie is talking about. It is, PSDA is an independent governmental entity, unit set up by the state legislature to levy the tax in a geographic area on the property values as the appraiser appraises them. St. Pete Beach, Treasure Island, Kansas City would not, their city council has no involvement in that. It was voted back in 1981 to be that they were not part of it, and that was the last they got to say of it. It's not like the city of Treasure Island could suddenly vote to become a member of the SBA or anything like that. It would have to be a referendum on the whole county on that. So it's not really, I mean, I know that's how every board member, and I view it too, but I don't know if that is painting a perfect picture either,
Well, so to that point, we just had a legislative process aimed at changing PSTA, the makeup of the board, how it was gonna operate, and the one question that I personally felt that should have been addressed was the state legislature's view on the taxing of all of the different communities within the county, right? So, and no one brings that up because for the most part, it's unknown. And when it's known, we kind of talk a little bit about it and move it off to the side. And I just think it should be, if people are going to talk about structural changes, then we need to make sure that the people that are weighing in on structural changes are contributing members. Since many of these folks also make the argument that because they pay taxes, they should have a say, right? So it can't work both ways, where you have a say when you don't have to pay taxes, and you have a say when you do. It just, for the record, I don't actually think tax paying should be the qualifying, right? We're citizens. Whether you pay this tax or that tax doesn't change that. I'm saying other people have made that argument. And if this winds up coming in front of the legislature again, as far as making changes to PSTA, to not have all of our communities in the county addressing their participation in the funding of PSTA at that moment, I think is a missed opportunity and
And if I can
something should be
clarify
addressed.
too, Brad, my point was more so for board information and
Mhm.
education.
Right.
Not to nitpick, not to.
That's my job.
Yeah, not to nitpick, but more so for board information. So when we're actually having these discussions and we're actually having to make decisions, we have all the information. Like, for example, anything can change. Anything is possible, right? Because when you have such, participation legislatively, things happen.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it as board member onboarding. We're having that information because I've never seen that. So when we get new board members and we're having those discussions, that's the information that I think would be critical for every board member to know and to have coming into it. Because we're all in our own silos. I know what's going on in St. Pete, but I don't know what's going on in Newport Richey on a daily basis that can contribute to PSTA.
Yeah, and I just now learned, I had no idea we'd have to go through a county referendum to get those municipalities on board.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good to know.
Yeah, it's important.
Yes.
Good. Brad, these that don't participate, like St. Pete Beach and KC, Kansas City, now, does that affect their paratransit service too? Meaning,
It does.
Okay.
They have to pay for paratransit service also, that goes to their community because they have the Suncoast Beach Drive, and the service goes through, so we have to provide ADA service there.
okay,
And so the way that it kind of works 1 year in arrears, they calculate the actual expenses in their city for last year, and then that's how much they pay next year.
so it's like à la carte then?
Yeah, it's kind of like a la carte.
Okay, just, we want to make sure that we serve the most vulnerable and,
Yeah,
And-
and actually, I think it's for one of the two cities, that is the majority of their bill, is access.
Okay.
They have a senior
I know.
population that gets a lot of access.
Yeah,
service,
because we do need to get reimbursed for that also, because it's very expensive service.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well-
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Along those same lines, though, when we are reimbursed for services, it does not include the full cost of other items that PSTA pays for, that
Sure.
everyone else is sharing, right? So,
Right,
so
right.
there are administrative and operational costs that are given to these municipalities for free, and then they're paying for the
Understood.
contracted service.
I understand.
And when we talk about, this year we cut routes in Safety Harbor and other places, and trim back some other services of folks that are more directly paying. And we need to parse this out so that that information is available to board members, because it is, and I know, I had the same, so I think it was probably year 2 or 3 when I joined the board, where I was like, what? They don't, this happens? And so this is probably a cyclical thing for Brad to have to go through these conversations. But I think it's also important, especially as we're gonna be entering this budget workshop, or April 26th, that we have a full context of what these numbers mean and where they're coming from and how they're being used, so that we're making decisions based on that, not just everything's just kind of in this random bucket where everyone thinks they have an equal pay-in or buy-in. Again, not that I think that should be the qualifier, but that is the argument a lot of people make. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Is there any other questions? Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
All right, Brad, you want to take us through the
Yes, I do.
Pass it to Todd.
I only got 5
Budget
more months to
workshop.
make this happen.
Well, based on that good discussion, I knew that making this presentation about our board workshop coming up on Friday, April 26th, to the planning committee was a good thing to do, because you're gonna be our star students at the workshop. Hopefully you have this on your calendar. I think maybe not all, there will be some board members that cannot attend, but the vast majority will be able to be there. And I wanted to kind of give you just a little highlight of what we're gonna do at the workshop, and then I did send last week all of you a little homework assignment. It's really not a hard homework assignment, it's just to kind of have you start thinking about the things that we've been talking about today and others, so that you don't come in totally cold. The goal of the workshop really is to hear from the board members. It is based on the workshop number 1 that happened back at the end of February. The key ideas that came out of that workshop, for those who were there, we're basically going to try to hear from the board members. There's not gonna be a PowerPoint or anything like that from Debbie, don't worry. That morning, no offense, that was a beautiful PowerPoint.
Thank you all for sticking up for
We
me.
enjoyed it.
All right.
I could maybe add a table number 5 to talk about the non-participating cities. But the idea is 9 o'clock Friday, next Friday, they come in, and then we'll quickly break up into 4 tables. And the idea is that every board member goes to all 4 tables in a scramble, not that you stay with the same group, different groups, but every board member gets to go to all 4 tables. And these are the topics for the tables that we got out of the workshop number 1. Table number 1 is going to be staffed by Trish Collins, our Director of Human Resources, on strategic planning. And this is very important to the 25 budget development, is what are our priorities and performance metrics. Table number 2 is something we talked a lot about at the workshop, which is the sponsorships idea, the UPass and the trades or partnerships we do with different events and things, and Amanda Baird is going to be leading that group. Table number 3 is revenues, expenses, efficiencies of PSTA. That's Debbie's group. And then table number 4 is important. There's that saying, don't tell me what your goals are, tell me what you pay for, and I'll tell you what your goals are, is a table about service design and how the whole routes work for our customers. That our 2025 budget should be customer oriented, to provide the best service we can to our customers, and that's what that table will be about. Then, about 20 minutes at each table, and then there will be a report out, and then we'll be done by 11. And then, when Debbie comes back with a PowerPoint in June, the budget will be framed off the outcomes, these refined ideas that are coming out of this workshop. At least that's the vision for what is gonna happen next Friday. Now, before then, just to give you a little cliff notes, you get special advantage, the other board members are not getting this. I'm gonna tell you how to do the homework. Table number 1, the homework, the PDF I sent to you is broken out by the different topics. So strategic planning topic, there is a little short reading that Trish found on sort of the goals of a business versus goals of a public service and how they're similar and different. I think it's only like 1 or 2 pages. And then just some questions to think about. It's not very hard. And then what she's going to do once you get here at her 20 minutes as she gets you at her table is go through a SWOT analysis of PSTA and then identify any performance metrics that you think should be added to the scorecard or changed for 2025. Table number 2, Amanda's on partnerships. The homework is reviewing the existing partnerships. Commissioner Reed was asking about if there's a list. Well, if you look at your homework, it's in there. But it's also, we want to get that out more. It's not just that. Some questions, and then a policy. This is a written policy for you to review on how we might frame future partnerships that we might want to get into. And then on the day of the workshop, at that table, Amanda's gonna have folks do a little role play on negotiating a hypothetical partnership with a private company entity, and then discuss that. Debbie's efficiency budget table is going in your homework. There are some scenarios she's laid out on if we're over revenues exceed expenditures or expenditures exceed revenues and those kinds of things. She got a nice little short article on property taxes from GFOA, and then there's some nice tables in there showing our expenses and then comparison on our staffing levels. And then the workshop, basically she's going to go over those same scenarios and have a discussion. And then finally, at the customer experience table, Darden and her team found a good report, an ALICE report summary, which I can't remember what those words that stands for, but is essentially
asset limited, income constrained, employed, i.e. the working poor.
Working class in Pinellas County is a high number, and so that's a pretty good read. And then there's some route profiles that we got from our survey that go into great detail on different, I think 4 or 5 different routes across the county, and the different types of people that are riding those services and what they're like, their income level, and then what they're transferring, if they are transferring or not, why they're riding, if they're going to work or they're going shopping or they're at the beach, because one of the routes is the Suncoast Beach Trolley that goes along the beach. And then the idea is that then that will feed into the 20 minutes that you are at that table discussing how the PSTA services across the county need to act as a network. That it is a large percentage of our riders are using more than one route to get where they need to go, and it does need to complement each other. You can't really pick apart one route versus another. Even if it's a very low ridership route, it still serves a purpose in some ways, and I think that will be a good discussion. And I know some of the folks on the planning committee will like that table. But again, then the idea is to collect the group discussion in a way that then it will be reflective, and when you see the budget presentation, say, oh yeah, okay, we discussed this at the workshop. That's the idea. So, are there any questions, or can I provide any other guidance?
Really? Yes, go ahead.
So, I think it's great. I've already looked through the homework, and so there's a lot of work that's been done ahead of time to help kind of focus those conversations and get people thinking. One suggestion, and I don't know if this group would even be in favor of it, is so Amazon, when they have executive meetings, they provide memos for reading at the beginning of the meeting and give everyone 5 to 10 minutes to read, so that everyone's read versus saying they read and kind of just nodding their head and kind of, faking their way through the meeting. And I'm not saying any of our board members would necessarily do that, but we have several readings here that I think, having read 2 of them so far, are helpful in making sure that we're all talking about things in the same way and understanding things the same way with regards to these topics, that it may be helpful to start off, after an initial start, giving 5 to 10 minutes of quiet time to work through your thoughts and packets, so that we are best primed for that conversation going forward. It seems a little parenting sort of thing, but it also recognizes that we're all busy and we want to make the most out of the conversation that's going to happen next. That's my only thought.
So we're suggesting to do the homework we were given in advance, to do it at the time when the meeting starts, to take up more time in the meeting? Is that what I'm hearing?
What I'm saying is, yes, is that doing the homework to think about it is helpful.
So instead of doing it as we were instructed, give us time to do it instead when we get here, because we didn't do it.
Yeah.
I think we should just plan to do our homework and read it.
I completely agree.
Sorry, but I mean.
But having
Like you said,
existed in the real
parenting, we
world.
don't need parenting, we just need to be able, we should do
That-
what we were asked to do, and if we can't do that, then maybe rethink your position on the board.
And so that is why I started off with saying, I'm not even sure this group would like this idea, right? So I was already acknowledging that was not necessarily, but I at least wanted to throw that out there as an idea, because there will be people who are not as prepared, but still as vocal about what they want to see. And then we'll spend a lot of time unwinding those sorts of notions in these conversations versus actually moving conversations forward. So it was just an opportunity to say, is there a way to set the stage and be at a level playing ground at the start of the conversation? We don't have to, but at least wanted to mention it.
Well, can I interject? I understand the intent of that, and I have to totally agree with Commissioner Reed. If you can tell if someone is unprepared, you can kind of reel them back in, because it would be obvious, if they start taking a lot of time with information that should have been done in advance. So I think allowing time during the meeting to go through what we would have had for, 2 weeks? 2-3 weeks?
Yeah.
At some point, professionalism has to show its head.
Which is why I started off also by saying that Amazon does this, right? So it is a large organization that has executives and professionals and whatnot, because they're all just, at the end of the day, we're all still people.
And busy.
And just wanted to float the idea. So if we're all against it, then so be it.
No, I'm not against it, just trying to find out what the time efficiency on April 26th would look like.
Because we only have 40, Brad said we had 20 minutes at each table, that's an hour and 20 minutes, but we have a 2-hour session. So now we have report outs, and we want to be able to have discussion afterwards, so I don't want to minimize that, but I thought out of a 40-minute unaccounted for block, making sure everyone had like 5 minutes or so at the beginning to be like, okay, maybe, how about we say everyone did read it, but they just need 5 minutes to refresh their memory on some of the salient details in the materials.
Reminders work really well for me, so maybe if we send out a reminder or the date.
I'll send you an email, remind you.
Yeah, we'll send out reminders.
Reminders are priceless for me, to go and look at the material to be prepared for
The other idea I had, to your, all, it's a good discussion. We're gonna have a little practice run-through. Maybe not the full 20 minutes, but we're gonna have a practice run on how this goes with 15 random PSA employees who have not even been given the homework. And then that'll be a good experiment to see if it goes, to me, it seems like, it's not, the homework or the reading is not too significant, that even if someone did not open it, which we're gonna send out reminders and everything, they could pretty quickly, I think, every board member I've had a one-on-one with has said that they've already opened it and started working on it, so I think it'll be okay. But we're gonna have this practice, and we'll see if it goes badly, then we'll come up with a.
And we also have a board meeting on the Wednesday just before, so there's an opportunity to remind and reinforce.
Would you like to have some quiet
But,
time with that?
you know, talking about like, best business practices, I wanted to share that this is something, other successful organizations do when engaging in this sort of planning and discussion.
All right.
Can
All
I
right, then
say
moving on.
something real quick?
Yes.
What we discussed earlier today, maybe like, not even the full thing, but even like Cliff Notes. We had talked about earlier, like high points to keep everybody on focus, not that they didn't read it or whatever, but it just, this is what we're addressing and we don't stray off
Yeah,
on that maybe.
I think I'll send them this presentation. That was it. Yeah.
Any other questions?
It's staying
That's a good
straight
idea.
on.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. Does any committee member have any other business to bring before the committee?
Make it,
Okay?
nice job, first day on the job, buddy. You did well.
Oh, well, thank you. Is that the business?
That's the business in your hair, I love your hair.
Okay.
I wish I had hair like that.
And, Mr. Chair, just hats off to you and the
Yeah.
entire Clearwater City Council attending the
Yeah,
ceremonial land exchange event we had on Monday.
and we had a couple of very positive articles in the paper about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Okay, so our next meeting is May the 15th at 10:30 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll have to change rings.
Yeah, it's the only reason I sit here. Gavel meetings.
I'll bring you my replacement. Transition from tier 2 and